You've seen them everywhere. On coffee mugs, on inspirational posters, in social media bios, and even tattooed on the arms of world-class athletes. They are powerful, bite-sized verses from the Bible that promise strength, success, unconditional acceptance, and a bright future. They are the slogans of modern faith. But what if the way we're using them is completely wrong? What if, by plucking these comforting words from their ancient context, we've accidentally twisted their meaning into something they were never meant to be? This isn't about attacking faith. It's about discovering a deeper, more powerful truth. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the most frequently misinterpreted verses in the Bible and uncover the revolutionary message we've been missing. Before we dive in, we must understand one crucial principle. Context is everything. Imagine finding a single torn page from a novel. On it, it says, "He knew he had to burn it all down." Without the rest of the book, you could assume the character is a violent arsonist. But with context, you might learn he's a heroic scientist burning down a lab contaminated with a deadly virus to save the world. The meaning changes completely. The Bible is not a single book. It's a library. It contains history, poetry, legal documents, personal letters, and prophetic visions written over thousands of years by different authors to different audiences in different cultures. To pull a single sentence out of this vast and complex library without understanding its original context is to risk missing the point entirely. So, let's become literary detectives and examine the evidence. Verse 1, the promise of a perfect life. Jeremiah 29-11. The popular misinterpretation. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This is arguably the most popular verse for graduation cards, encouraging posters, and personal reassurance. It's seen as a direct, personal promise from God to every individual believer that He has a detailed blueprint for their success, wealth, health, and happiness. It's God's cosmic guarantee that everything will turn out great for you. The historical context. To understand this verse, you have to picture its original recipients. This wasn't a text message from God to a 21st century student worried about their career. This was a public letter written by the prophet Jeremiah, sent to the Jewish exiles who had been violently conquered and dragged from their homeland. They were living as captives in Babylon, the capital of the empire that had destroyed their temple and their nation. They had lost everything: their homes, their freedom, their national identity. They were hopeless, wondering if God had completely abandoned them. False prophets were rising among them, telling them what they wanted to hear. "Don't worry, this exile will be over in a couple of years. God will rescue you any day now." The original meaning. Jeremiah's letter was a dose of hard reality mixed with long-term hope. He tells them to ignore the false prophets. The exile won't be over in 2 years. In fact, he commands them to build houses, plant gardens, get married, and have children in Babylon, because they are going to be there for 70 years. It was a multi-generational period of suffering and waiting. In that context of crushing, long-term national despair, God speaks verse 11. The plans for hope in a future were not a promise of an easy life or individual success for each person. Many of the people who first heard that letter would die in Babylon, never seeing their homeland again. The promise was a national one. It was a promise that God had not forgotten His covenant people as a whole, and that after the 70 years of judgment were complete, He would restore the nation of Israel. It's a promise about God's long-term faithfulness to His people, not a guarantee of a comfortable life for an individual. A better application: the principle is not that you are guaranteed to get that job or be cured of that illness. The deeper, more powerful principle is that even in times of immense, prolonged suffering and apparent hopelessness, God is sovereign and remains faithful to His ultimate redemptive purposes. His plans are often on a much grander and longer timescale than our own personal comfort. Verse 2, the superhuman strength verse, Philippians 4:13. The popular misinterpretation, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This is the quintessential verse for athletes pointing to the sky after a victory, for business leaders before a big presentation, or for anyone needing a boost to achieve a difficult goal. It's interpreted as a divine power-up, giving a person the ability to accomplish anything they set their mind to, from winning a championship to acing an exam. The historical context. This verse is found in a personal letter from the Apostle Paul to the church in Philippi. But he's not writing it from a victor's podium. He's writing from prison. Paul is likely under house arrest in Rome, chained to a guard, uncertain if he will be executed. The Philippian church had sent him a financial gift to support him, and Paul is writing to thank them. The original meaning. Look at the verse immediately before it. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Now, verse 13 clicks into place. The all things he can do is not achieve any worldly goal. The all things is be content in any circumstance. Paul is saying that whether he is rich or poor, hungry or full, free or imprisoned, he can find his strength and contentment in Christ. It's not a verse about achieving victory, but about enduring hardship. It's a statement of radical sufficiency in God, not self-empowerment for worldly success. A better application. The true power of this verse isn't in helping you win the game. It's in giving you the strength to endure when you lose, to persevere when you are struggling, and to find peace whether you are on the mountaintop or in the valley. It's about spiritual endurance, not worldly achievement. Verse 3, the universal get-out-of-jail-free card, Matthew 7:1. The popular misinterpretation, judge not, that you be not judged. This is perhaps the most quoted verse in the entire Bible by both Christians and non-Christians alike. It is almost always used as a conversation stopper to shut down any form of criticism, moral correction, or discernment. It's interpreted as a universal command to never make a moral evaluation of anyone else's actions, ever. The historical context. This verse is right at the beginning of a long section in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, where he teaches his followers how to live. He is speaking to a crowd, warning them about the religious hypocrisy of the Pharisees, who were famous for holding others to impossibly high standards while ignoring their own profound moral failures. The original meaning, Jesus isn't forbidding judgment. He is forbidding hypocritical judgment. If we keep reading, the context becomes crystal clear. In verses 3-5, he says, Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? ... You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. He doesn't say, don't ever touch your brother's speck. He says to deal with your own massive sin first, so that you are in a proper, humble position to help your brother with his smaller issue. A few verses later in the same chapter, Jesus commands his followers to use good judgment. Watch out for false prophets. By their fruit you will recognize them. You cannot recognize false prophets without making a judgment. A better application. The verse is not a call to blind tolerance of all behavior. It is a call to radical self-examination before engaging in correction. It commands us to approach others with humility, awareness of our own faults, and a genuine desire for their good, not with an attitude of self-righteous condemnation. Verse 4, the money verse to 1 Timothy 6:10, the popular misinterpretation. Money is the root of all evil. This phrase is so common it has become a secular proverb. It's used to suggest that money itself is inherently evil, and that financial wealth is a corrupting and wicked force. The historical context. The Apostle Paul is writing a letter of instruction to his young protege, Timothy, who is leading the church in Ephesus. Ephesus was a major commercial hub, a wealthy and materialistic city. Paul is warning Timothy about false teachers who view religion as a means of financial gain. The original meaning, the actual verse has one small but critically important difference. It reads, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." It's not the money, but the love of it, the greed, the obsession, the worship of wealth. That is the problem. Money is a neutral tool. It is the human heart's posture toward it that is the issue. The verse continues, "Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." The problem is making money your ultimate goal, your God, which leads to all kinds of evil, not necessarily every single evil act. A better application. This is a timeless warning against materialism. It calls for an examination of our own hearts. Is money a tool we use for good, for our families, and for others? Or is it our master, the thing we obsess over and trust in for our security and happiness? The danger isn't in your wallet. It's in your heart. As we've seen, context doesn't weaken these verses. It unlocks their true power. It transforms them from simple, self-help slogans into profound, challenging, and ultimately more comforting truths. Jeremiah 29-11 isn't a promise of an easy life, but a testament to God's faithfulness in the midst of suffering. Philippians 4:13 isn't a magical formula for success, but a deep well of contentment for every season of life. Matthew 7:1 isn't a shield to deflect all criticism, but a call to humble self-reflection. Reading the Bible this way requires more effort. It asks us to be students, not just consumers, but the reward is immense. It's the difference between snacking on a fortune cookie and feasting on a rich, nourishing meal. It invites us into a deeper conversation with the text, to wrestle with its complexities, and to be transformed not by a phrase taken out of context, but by the whole, breathtaking story of a God who meets us in our real-world mess, not just in our sanitized, inspirational quotes.